A somber tale of a ruined man tasked with protecting a cure for mankind. The conflict to survive has never felt so grounded. What price would you put on a human life?
Superb vision, one that the creators never backed down from, never relented. They had a nuanced story to tell and a believable, fantastical world to create. Character moments, world building, all stellar. This game sticks. I never want to forget. Greetings, lovely listeners, and welcome back to Games Gone, a place where we take a game from the past and relive it 5 times each month. And I'm one of your co-hosts, Michael.
And I'm Larry.
And we are here to do another month of gaming with The Last of Us. But I want to do a quick shout-out first. Over on Podbean, we got a new follower, which is awesome. So Thank you, Jurgen Hex Hilary, maybe? I don't know how to say that word, but 14. That's awesome. And over on Twitter, we hit Vortex. You've been awesome. Vortex from Saturn. Good job.
Yeah, we actually, me and him actually ran into each other over on Reddit.
Oh,
so
nice.
He has been amazing so far. I love the energy, and we seem to have a similar taste in games. And I believe he was the one who recommended Binding of Isaac. He wants me to play that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Or us to play that.
Okay.
And then, Titanfall 2 maybe down the line.
Ooh,
I'm
I'm all for Titanfall 2, so thank you very much for subscribing. We really appreciate that. You can listen to us anywhere you grab your podcasts, so you should do that.
Mm-hmm.
Over on them Apple Podcasts, them Googles, them Stitchers.
We're basically everywhere.
Yeah, it's cool. I think one of them said no, but it's fine. It's okay.
I've been meaning to unsubscribe from that email because we get the notification, you're running out of space.
Yeah, I'm like, no, we've got enough space everywhere else. It's okay. So if this is your first time joining us, first of all, thank you. Really appreciate that. We take one game and break it down to 5 episodes. And what that means is this is our review episode, so we'll go through our own personal reviews, internet opinions that we gather, and some bonus facts. And then you always have a game, a debate, a discussion, and then Preserving Memories will be the book-ended last episode of the series. So first and third Sunday of the month, you always get the big episodes. In between Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday, you get the little ones. So thank you for sticking around. We have quite a big backlog going on right now. So
A lot of fun games.
yeah, but this is all about The Last of Us TLoU. So we started off with our little Twitter reviews, and we're going to kind of dissect those just a little bit.
Yeah, I believe this is the first month we really didn't give away what game we were talking about.
Yeah,
I'm usually at fault for that.
you like to play on words a lot.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
I was
mind it.
debating doing that with this one, but I actually struggled doing my review for this one more than any other one.
Yeah, I couldn't. I was trying to come up with something like clever, and I used the word nuanced. I was going to say that right now, nuanced for my Twitter review, but I just feel like this game, you just can't do that with it.
For me, too, the big thing is like even the beginning of my Twitter review, a somber tale of a ruined man tasked with protecting a cure for mankind. Obviously, cure is a clever way of saying Ellie.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily just...
I'm just kidding, sorry.
It's not necessarily his story, because obviously it's Ellie's too. So I'm kind of a little iffy on my way of wording that, but it is kind of, at least to begin, kind of his struggles. And
I would say I would agree with that, yeah.
And so, and he's obviously... he's forced to protect Ellie, I guess I should say. And...
yeah, because he's very reluctant not to want to do this at all.
Which we understand why, because of all the crap he's gone through prior to that. There's obviously a massive time jump in the beginning of the game.
20 years.
And so because of that, we get tidbits of what life was like prior to that. We hear how Joel probably did a lot of really bad things. He cheated, he killed, he stole. But that's everybody in that world. You're just kind of forced to be put in that position.
Sort of. We can get into that, too.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you disagree with that. But here, I also then, the survival mechanics of the game, I did kind of say the whole conflict to survive. I thought this game in itself did the survival aspect of it really well. You never felt at any one point, and I'll get into this more once we're done with the review here, or the Twitter reviews. You always have just enough items or not quite enough. You never have too much of anything at any time. You never feel. You know how
I guess it depends what difficulty, but yes,
True.
I agree.
With Final Fantasies. I mean, how many times do you have like 99, potions of something, and it's just, or there was the Omega Elixirs or anything like you never wanted to use them, so
you just banked
just banked them the whole game. You never felt like that in this game, and I thought that was hugely important that they did it that way.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there with the survival bit because I think survival is a buzzword in video games, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think of survival games, you think of managing your health, managing your
Yes.
water and shelter. Because survival game type games, that's a genre in itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Last of Us presents survival in a way that is more mainstream, maybe, where you don't have to manage everything, but you have these resources to create, and the aspect of the world that is built around it makes it feel more not survivability, but it feels like you are scrounging for resources versus actually scrounging for resources. I don't know how to word it. If you say this is a survival game, people will be like, no, it's not a survival game. It's not a real survival game. I think it's wordplay, but who knows?
Yeah, I'd be willing to disagree with that comment, though. I think this is...
That's totally fine.
Yeah, it definitely is a survival game in my estimation. It's not like survival mode. For instance, you take like a game like Fallout.
Okay.
They added in a mode in the game where, if you don't drink water...
I guess that's where I'm going for. When people hear survival words, they kind of think of that. But I agree that this feels like a survival world. But
yeah, well, because
itself.
you're trying to survive. It's a
The
whole
whole
bunch
point.
of crap has come on the world here. So
That's true. I mean, that's exactly what it is. And what I appreciate about that is how I said in my Twitter review was superb vision. Like, they wanted to tell this one story, and the whole entire game is built around that one. It's almost like an emotion, desperation, and hope. I feel like that's all this game is. It's a really crappy world, and there's Ellie's kind of the ray of hope.
yeah,
I guess the Fireflies at some point are a ray of hope as well.
well, to then bounce just right off that, how I ended my review with just is what's the price you would put on a human life? Obviously, you have to decide: is Ellie a single individual worth potentially millions of lives?
Ooh, yeah.
And that's the dilemma. Joel was in that dilemma.
And I like that that's what they decided to choose. And that's the one thing Naughty Dog did not, or I guess it would have been Neil and Bruce who made the game, or the directors of the game. That ending scene, he chose to save Ellie, and then at the end he chose to lie to Ellie. And there was a very huge confliction in Naughty Dog when they were creating this game. When they showed it to people, I think they said like 50% said, yes, this is a good ending, and 50% said no. And they wanted them to change it. Obviously this 50% wanted them to change it. And they just said, no, this is the story we want to tell, and we're sticking to it. And there's I think that's very high regarded as a good thing. You want to tell your story, you're not going to compromise your vision. And that's what this game does really, really well.
No, I definitely agree with that. And, to tease future podcasts, I definitely have a question about the ending that I'd like to ask you.
Okay, sweet.
And yeah, it is one of those things where I thought the fact that they did leave it open-ended towards the end, you're given the opportunity to choose whether what you believe is okay, did he make a good decision? Does she believe him? What's happening next? Obviously, Last of Us 2 has now been announced, so we're seeing kind of the outcome of that.
I like that. I do like it that it's
because it's continuing their story.
And we also did talk about last month about open-ended games, and this one does have there's definitely an ending. That last scene is open-ended.
Yes.
Just like the ending is a little bit open-ended, like we said, but it hits strong in the emotions. Joel, you dick, you lied to him. Lied to her. And then the opening sequence is just amazing. This opening sequence is probably one of the best intros in the game. Yeah, it's slow to begin with, but it packs a punch, and what I love about this game is that it makes you feel, whenever they do the cuts and show things, it just makes you feel. You see a scene, and then boom, it's done. And you're like, man.
I feel like Naughty Dog has this weird way of making interiors of houses like just better than other developers. Because I saw
that's really random, but
I know. But I noticed that I haven't played Uncharted 4. Don't yell at me. But
okay.
I've seen some people play it, and there's obviously I got something spoiled for me towards the end of that game, and I think it's the prologue.
Oh yeah, don't say anything though, just in case.
But just the house, the way they do it there, the way they do it now. If you go into Last of Us, when you're just walking around the house, there's something so believable and lived in about the house. And to your point, you talked about they start off slow. I think that's actually what really helps it.
Yep,
they
same here.
slowly build their story, and it just obviously it climaxes in a very unfortunate way. But whew, what a beginning.
And you said the word believable, and that's what I used in my Twitter review. I said believable fantastical, which is a terrible words to put together, by the way.
English.
Yeah, English is hard. And what I mean by it feels like a world that people used to live in. Even because, we get a small snippet in the beginning, but then after everything's gone, nature is taken back over. It feels real, even though it's a fantastic world. I mean, you have these mushroom-headed zombies coming around trying to fight you, and these big bloaters. Like, is that what they're called? I think they're called bloaters. I can't remember what the
bloaters. Yeah, the
giant guys.
The giant guys. Yeah.
That's very fantasy-like, right? But it still feels believable in this world, and that's hard to do. That's really hard to do. It's hard to make zombies feel real in this type of world, and Naughty Dog really does it good.
Well, that was one of my favorite things after Last of Us.
Does it well. Yeah. Sorry.
Does it well? Yeah. I always love when you kind of get like in a conflict with yourself.
Yeah.
Just on the side. Naughty Dog, after Last of Us came out, that was a big discussion that happened. It was all over the internet in forums and stuff. People were like, this could actually really happen.
So scary.
There's there's going to be a zombie apocalypse that's going to happen in the world.
Yeah, because of the whole cordyceps and how it's linked to something that happens in nature. Character moments, Joel and Ellie, heartfelt, and what I like about it, it's all about stepping past people's boundaries.
I can see that, yeah.
Joel does not want to talk about his daughter throughout the game, and Ellie's constantly kind of rubbing and pushing up against that, and she wants to be accepted, and it's just so good. How Joel reacts to the world around him is so elegantly done by how he's influenced by his past, and it's amazing. I just love it.
Their relationship for me, I kind of summed it. I just jotted down a couple notes, and I basically just said there's 3 parts to their relationship. He starts off very distant. He doesn't want to care, but then he doesn't want to lose her.
Yeah, and that trajectory, that's a perfect arc.
The 3 parts to that just work beautifully together.
And you can kind of expect that to happen, but the way it develops throughout the story is bar none one of my favorite aspects of the game. Now, this wouldn't be a review if we didn't talk about actual gameplay, though. What is your feeling? I mean, you already talked about you like the scrounging for resources. I do, too. I have 7 bullets in my gun, and I have a brick. What am I going to do?
So my favorite aspect of crafting, just collecting of items, I thought they did something brilliant that I don't think enough people talk about. And that is when you're crafting items, the similarities, it doesn't make sense logically, but the similarities in what you need for some of the items. For instance, I have written down, and I had to actually load the game back up again to see this, to craft a med kit or a Molotov cocktail.
Okay.
They both require the same items. So you are given a deliberate decision. Do I think I'm going to need my med kit, or should I play aggressive? What am I going to, I thought, and
that's true, yeah.
Most people didn't probably think about it, and I didn't necessarily always think about it, but it's in the back of your head. Like,
I definitely thought about it when I was playing it.
Yeah, should I make a med kit here, or you know what? It would be so good if I could just throw this Molotov cocktail at all these guys and get rid of it. Mm-hmm. And you have to make that decision, and I thought that was brilliant that they did that.
And I think what this game does really well, which I enjoy whenever a game does this, this came out with kind of in StarCraft as well, is tension. You always feel on edge when you're in the big battles. Whether it's in the tension of fighting humans versus clickers is totally different. And I love that aspect, how just that one change is great. Some people really don't like when you're one-hit kills with clickers, like you're dead if you get touched. I still like that. I don't know why. I like the instant death things in games.
I think
sometimes.
To me, okay. I think in general it actually forces you to go about how you're going to attack a situation differently.
Yeah.
When you hear that there's a clicker in a room, not even see, just hear, it just instantly changes how you have to handle the situation, and there's a level of tenseness that pops up because let's say you get seen by one of the random ones. Crap. Or hurt, I guess. And
That's true.
I think there is something to that. I can understand. There was more than a couple times, I kind of gripped the controller a little harder, and I was like, because you slip up once, and you're dead.
And yeah, I would say the checkpoint system isn't the greatest. A lot of people think checkpoints in general is kind of archaic. Like we should be able to save whenever we want. We should be able to load whenever you want. In grounded or survival mode, if you're trying to play in that, like the checkpoints can be very grueling, especially with these one instant tests. But I think that makes it more fun. So it's building the tension. I mean, it might not be fun for everybody, but then there's always easy or normal, and that's fine.
See, okay, so we go into gameplay. There's one aspect of gameplay I'm still completely undecided on whether I like it or not.
Okay, go for it.
Listening mode.
Oh, okay. So what are you on the fence about?
So to me, it's a very common video game trope that they got to give you some way to kind of see the map. And I thought they did it cleverly in that you're able to, when you're going to your listening mode, you can sometimes the image in front of you is blurry, a little bit fuzzy. If it's a human, you can't always tell what kind of gun they have.
Yeah.
But I also thought it was weird that if someone's in like one or two hallways away from you, you go into that and them walking somehow gives off the shape and gun that they're holding. And I watched some videos where people were defending like, if you've been doing this long enough, you can tell. And
which is maybe again, possible.
He's been there for 20, but it just seems so unrealistic for me to think. Now, granted, realism has its moments, obviously, in games.
You still want it to be functional and be in a game.
Yeah, there was something. I almost wondered. They already had a cover system in the game. Was the listening mode something that you needed to add? So, like, if you didn't have that, does it build? Like, does it make it more tense?
Well, I mean, I played on Survival on the PS3 version,
and they didn't have that. Right?
They didn't have it, so
maybe I should play it through on that.
It is fun. I liked it that way, but I don't know if they needed it. But I agree if you're trying to like the places you fight in are pretty big, and if you want to play stealthily the whole time, like a lot of times I would get seen after like the fourth guy. I'm like, well, there we go, time to fight, and I like that part. And this game is very slow at times, like extremely excruciatingly slow. And as stealth games go, I get less and less patient with them. This is coming from the guy who's played almost 60 hours in Dragon Quest 11. As you're hearing this, probably more by the time you're hearing this, actually, because this comes out in November. But
it's January. Jeez,
it's not January.
It's October.
it's October right now. Don't scare me like that. Time paradox. But having it slow in combat or leading up to combat. So gameplay is also exploring, right? So this game does three things. And it's basically like a JRPG. I think this is why I like it. You explore a new town, explore a new place in Last of Us. You have dialogue, so you have the talking scenes like in a JRPG, and then you have the fighting scenes. And it's basically a JRPG, and it does it really well. That's all this game does. You go through a place, you explore. You'll have awesome little character moments that are optional to see while you're exploring the world. So you get to see what this world is now after 20 years of humans being a little bit less. And then you go and fight, and the combat feels great. Some people don't like the combat because the shooting's a little off, but I like that it feels so... I mean, you can definitely pinpoint and headshot people, but I like that it feels so...
It's weighted.
Yeah, that is a great word for this.
There's, to me, I think, and which is another reason why I'm trying to think, like, I use the word grounded in that it just feels you're there. It's realistic. It's not arcadey like a lot of games are in this sense. I feel like this game, especially its shooting mechanics, it's a game I didn't play a lot of, which you guys can yell at me too. Resident Evil 4, it has like a feel of like how there's a lot of the difficulty spikes in this game are very random. Just when you start getting comfortable again playing the game, you feel like, okay, this is starting to get easy. Something else happens.
Yeah, they add new element.
And I feel like just the way the shooting system is handled, there is a weight to it, and you can almost feel the impact a lot of the times that your weapons have when you're punching people. There's a closeness to that.
It feels. I think they intentionally did this, and this will go back to my point about they're not compromising. It is so violent when you are up close and you are choking somebody, like they're scratching at you to stop, or like when you're fighting, you're bashing people against the ledges. And I like that because it feels more real. If you're trying to fight for your death, you're really going to fight for it. And they don't
Fight for your life.
Yeah, fight for your death. Yeah, you can try and fight for your death.
To the death.
Yeah, so if you're trying to fight for your life, all these people are humans, or the hunters, and the fireflies they end up fighting. Jeepers. You would be like that. You want to feel like that every life you're taking, you're becoming this bad person, or you're trying to justify your actions. And I like that they kind of put that in your head. You're trying to protect Ellie, you're trying to survive, but you're also killing these people very gruesomely, and I think that juxtaposition of that is really well done.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with almost anything there.
Sorry. The gameplay that we haven't touched upon is the puzzles, which is people's lowest contention with this game, I would say, or highest contention. They're very simple, right? It's you grab a ladder to get over something, you grab a plank, you grab the raft. It's basically all it is. And this is all during the exploring slow. It's already a slow down thing, and you have to get somewhere. And this is probably the worst aspect of the game, in my mind. Does it ruin the game? I don't think so.
So this is one of those, how many times does it happen where you're in a game and you're trying to find, I need to get up to the second level, and there's conveniently a ladder placed somewhere. The reason why I feel like, even though I did see it too, a lot of people complained about the puzzles in the game. The part that I felt that is somewhat believable, and there's a reasoning behind why the items are typically always around somewhere, is of the 20-year time jump.
Yeah, like the people are just leaving stuff everywhere.
So what I typically got, and for some reason this game, I looked past it, and maybe that's a fault, and maybe I shouldn't. But every time I saw that, in this game, the different vision I got was, okay, I wonder who was here before. It's like, was there another group of people who were trying to escape? Or did they make it? I found myself doing that a lot in this game. There was something about the world that I constantly was like, every little tidbit, there's a story that I was creating in my head of, okay, what was it, a family?
That's why the Ishmael letters are so cool.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that.
But that's what this game does. It's about the atmosphere and the world around these awesome characters that are super highly developed throughout the story. But then you have this world that you can explore. I can go on a tangent, but I want to finish my point with the gameplay. I think it becomes a little trite because they use the same mechanic over and over. But I wouldn't want them wasting resources on coming up with a different puzzle every time, because that would be really lame. But it's a weak link in a very, very sturdy chain.
Yeah, that's a good analogy to make. I would even go so far as to say the puzzle, the little kind of breaks and everything, is almost kind of a time to collect your breath, and it kind of helps build anticipation, because there is a couple times where
kind of like the Inside thing we were talking about last month.
If you can't figure it out right away, it's not even that you can't figure it out. There's never a time where you were like, I can't do this, but it was, do I have to jump down there and go grab that? Like, that's annoying. But it kind of helped build. I noticed for me, it was almost an annoyance, but it was well placed annoyance, because I really wanted to see what was next.
Yeah,
but it forced you to have to just live the everyday monotony that you would be going through in that world. So I don't want to say that's an excuse. Yes, clearly one of the weakest parts of the game, I would say. But I don't know. I never at any point was like, ugh, I can't. I don't think I ever did that. It was I typically, because there was so much going on, those moments gave me time to kind of think about what I had just experienced.
I think that was a deliberate decision.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was.
I think the only other part is the cliche storyline a little bit. The one aspect that she has the cure, Ellie's not affected. But there's so much excellent character development that I don't care that that's the onset of the story.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, things are tried and true, and there are obviously video game tropes, and there's storylines that are used and used and used again. But I can't imagine there are too many people out there who could like sit through that. Now, again, I hear one of the big complaints is this is basically similar to like the Metal Gear Solid 4 complaint, is it's the shooting mechanics and the things in between get in the way of just kind of listening to the story. And I've heard that from people.
I've definitely heard that, but
I feel like the gameplay, you're basically crapping on what is decent gameplay when you say that. Obviously,
I really love the gameplay, actually.
And there was a level of tenseness to it always, and I enjoyed that. And I thought, if we want to keep talking about like on the review side of things, one of my favorite things that you see in the game is whenever you're in a cover system and Ellie's there, the way that he kind of huddles or Joel hovers over her, there's such an attention to detail with the way they're crept up against things, and it's always like, and you notice it. I feel like, and I'd have to actually play the game again to see this, I feel like Joel did that more and more as the game went on.
That'd be cool if that was a thing.
And that might just be me kind of saying that right now, but like it just felt like you could almost, his mannerisms, things, you could see it changing slowly, and that's so cool.
That one bit of cliche, we have the puzzles. Those are such small knocks against this game. And I can see how people, if you don't like the gameplay, yeah, this would be a little bit tedious. I don't know how no, I can see people not liking the gameplay. That's fine. But you still have everything else that's amazing. So it's kind of hard, but I could see that. Whatever. But the atmosphere, the world is beautifully distraught, especially where you start off in that camp, that refugee camp. I think that's what they call them. Are they refugee camps? Maybe. Whatever, doesn't matter. Quarantine zone. That's what it is. Quarantine zone. And the picture that they paint, just walking from one spot to the next, you're like, I'm getting a feel for this world instantly. And it kind of reminds me of the beginning of Blade Runner. You just want to see more and more of the world, and the world around it's telling things. So everything in the background kind of gives you a sense of what this world is like.
You kind of hit the nail on the head there when you said paint. I always felt like when I was, especially some of the cityscapes in the background with the way the buildings, it felt like a painting. So many different times. And I mean, even if we like fast forward a lot, like the what is it, the bus depot where you see the giraffes and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just again, we'll talk about that scene, I'm sure, but just the way it looks, the world, parts of like Salt Lake City itself. This game made me want to visit Salt Lake City, by the way.
The university.
Yeah. It's not necessarily the university, but just I was more so paying attention to the background, just how I don't know how well it's molded over it.
So you're University in Salt Lake City that they go to, or is that in Wyoming, Montana?
I think that's in
Montana. Man, I can't remember.
Wow.
Whatever, it's fine.
We can look it up in between episodes.
Yeah.
But it's just, it felt like a lot of times you were looking at a painting almost. Like, just graphically, they did something with the art style of the game where I just would sit there. It's not technically one of like the best looking games ever, but that's why art style is so big to me always. There was attention to detail. They were purposely trying to point you to look at certain things, and just so well done.
And my last point before we move on to internet opinions is this game just ties everything together. It feels like this game was designed around a central theme, like I said in the beginning. Either it's desperation or hope. I think even Neil Druckmann, he said this first part was based on hope, which is super weird because part 2 is based on hate. So we'll use hope because that's Neil Druckmann's words. Everything was crafted around that specific design. From the music being super sorrowful and just off-kilter, like the guitar is not even tuned right, but it's amazing. You have this distraught future. You have rough characters, very gritty. And there's very little hope in a very violent world. And I think that this game just plays through that all throughout the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I did want to say, though, so the idea of hope in the game, like I actually think that's really clever. The way that they're trying to build the storyline around, you have the Fireflies are almost like the essential essence of what that means. They are so hopeful that they're doing something
butcher
good.
Them all.
Yeah. Now, I did want to add in as one more thing is I felt one thing this game did better than a lot of games I've witnessed before that, actually the time jumps. I thought
that's true.
So in specifically the example I have, and obviously spoilery, but I would assume most people have probably played this one. So after the Ellie kills David.
Oh, the jump to the bus depot.
Yeah. So there's something about, because as soon as it happens, there's something about what she's going through. Like that is it. There is no reason to really have gameplay in that essence there because she's distraught. You know what was potentially going to be happening there if she didn't kill him. And I just thought it was so expert to go from that dark scene to the bright bus depot scene. And you kind of see them, she's still distant. So you're
talking about, so you can imagine what was going on.
You've seen, it's the slow, like, okay, I'm trying to move on thing. And it's just the time jumps in the game I thought were so expertly done because it allowed you to kind of build a picture to people who you were very, very now connected to. And I just thought they did it superbly well.
And there's part of you that wanted to be there for that interaction, but I think it's stronger that they didn't show you that.
It lets them continue to almost have, like, you have a strong relationship with them, but they even have a stronger relationship because they're living through even more than you're getting to experience. And I thought that was genius. It's just genius how they did it.
Very good ending point. So we are going to move on to segment number 2, which is internet opinions, man. Because there's a bunch of different ones out there. To recap, we take 5 internet opinions that we find around the internet, and then we discuss them and talk about them. Because opinions are awesome, and I love them.
I, for some reason, labeled my facts before my opinions. What am I thinking?
Oh, that's weird.
Had to scroll down.
Last of Us was published on June 14th, 2013, and developed by Naughty Dog. The Metacritic score is 95 out of 98 critics.
Woo!
Yeah. Almost our highest game, but it has the most critics, I think, out of all our games we've done so far. The user score is 9.2 based off of 8,680 reviews, and today is October 16th or something like that. I don't know what it is.
It's got to be 17th.
Yeah, it's the 17th. So there you go. That is the user score as of right now. Scores don't mean everything. You just listen to all our own opinion and reviews. Obviously, you can probably think we think pretty highly of this game.
That's all right.
Yeah. Stop it. All right, so Larry, where do you want to start? Everything amazing or dreading each encounter?
Everything amazing, just because that sounds like a lazy.
All right, that's perfect. So this is from YouTube 2 years ago. It's on the first song of the OST that I was listening to while compiling this review. From Not Harambe. This is my favorite game ever. Everything about it is amazing.
Well, that is a very common comment of most people. They say if it's not your favorite game ever, it is a game that it spoke to people. It touched them's a bad word, but like it stayed with them. And
yeah, and I said that in my review. This game sticks.
So, I mean, I can't disagree with that. I wholeheartedly believe it. This is a game. I was late to the bandwagon, and we will definitely talk about my initial memory with it in the Preserving Memories episode because I had a different take on it.
Yeah, I remember that.
I do think it was, which by the way is another teaser. I read in some comments that we have from your friend of yours. You did something similar to multiple different people, so you had a fascination with the beginning of this game.
Oh, now I gotta think.
Well, we'll get to that later. Again, later this month. It'll be fun. Okay, cool. But yeah, I can't disagree with that. It's a fantastic game. I loved it. I mean, there are a lot of people. You got to imagine. We had games when we were in that early part of our life that stuck with us because they were we experienced them. Can you imagine being a teenager and like this being one of the first games you've ever played? Oh my goodness!
I hope you're pretty old though. This is a violent game.
That's a good point. I hope you were over 18.
17, I think they are.
Maybe 16 even. It depends on what country.
Yeah.
Is it 17 plus?
17 plus. Yeah.
Okay.
Mature.
America. Michael, opinion time. Well, other people's opinions. GTA ain't got nothing on this, or this sums it up.
This sums it up.
It's pretty much all about the story. This sums it up. Great story, bleep game.
I'm guessing that's an SHIT.
Yeah.
Okay. Wholeheartedly disagree with that, but that's okay. The story is, he said, what do you say? Great?
Great story.
Great story. Yes. I think it's a stellar story. I'll go that far.
You're always one-upping people. My goodness.
I think we talked about this. Yeah, you can not like the gameplay loop. That makes sense to me. Some people really don't like that, but to say it's a bleep game that low, no. I mean, I'm sorry. Just by the quality alone, I've played games that are like a Metacritic of 50, right? And you can definitely tell the difference. This game probably has some jank. People will probably bring up the whole Ellie and Bill thing if they're following you, like they don't affect.
That is a common issue in almost all games, though.
And I would way rather have that than finicky AI, because there might be an example about there where there's a companion that is so awesomely like stealthy, but in a stealth game you don't want a companion.
Oh, Skyrim has the best companions in the world.
It just doesn't work in that respect. But there's no way this game is. People.
Freaking Lydia.
Oh gosh, you're sidetracking me, but it's fine.
Sorry.
People will look at a game, like for instance, we're in this culture where Breath of the Wild got a 97, which I still think is a little too high for the game. But this is a compiled of all these critics who look at this game, and people are like, nah, 1 out of 10, your items break. I'm like, that's not how gaming works. I'm sorry. You're entitled to that opinion, but a crap game is a game that is broken, and this game is not broken.
That's why I have such a
disagree.
I have such a love-hate relationship with Metacritic. Like, it's
I know,
entertaining as heck to kind of read all that stuff, but
and I agree there might be some bias when a certain franchise shows up, like Breath of the Wild. They might overlook something, where in another open world game they would kind of, maybe harp on that fact a little bit more. But I digress. Your opinion's wrong, sir. But you're entitled to it.
Perfect response.
All right, so do you want to do BTV? It's better. Stealth blown, throw everything.
BTV was it's better. Like, BTV is the person's username.
No, and that's my headline that I created.
BTV, it's better.
Yeah,
I just have to. I don't know.
All right. So this is from Fenrichero on Metacritic from 2013, so the year this game came out. Just as a caveat, because I probably saw this when I first read it, he gave it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
If you're coming into this game expecting to be blown away by a complete game, you're going to be disappointed. Nothing revolutionary, gameplay-wise, but nothing misplaced either. Just tried and true elements that feel comfortable, though you can debate whether that's a good thing in a game that's relying on you being drawn in. If this was a TV show, it'd definitely be worthy of a higher score. The story is definitely quite good. The problem is that it's about as interactive as a painting. They went with the open barn design philosophy of multiple paths all leading to the same set pieces. This can be a fine choice, but when characters react as though you'd been in a running gun battle in the set piece when you really did not make a sound, it really breaks the immersion. This type of game is award fodder because it's easy to call good because it has a good story and does a bunch of stuff we are familiar with, but at the end of the day, it feels like they placed it too safe and it could have been even better if they'd been willing to reach. And I'm just going to go on something. Breath of the Wild had a pretty crap story and it got really high remarks. Inside has a very obscure story and it got really high remarks.
Well, I still missed it. What was the BTV thing for?
Because he says if this was a TV show.
Okay, for some reason I was using abbreviations of BTV.
Oh.
I don't know why.
It's all right. That's
all right.
You're hearing it.
For starters, that's a fantastic comment. Like just an assessment of the game. I actually never even thought about this. Just kind of paying attention. That's clearly someone who is like really into the nuances of like story and story building and how a game kind of is working behind the scenes. I had never even thought to look at it behind. If you go stealth all the way through a section, which I did in a couple of different areas, was the next cutscene, was there any like tip-offs to you were supposed to probably be shooting with the way that your characters are acting? And I never noticed anything like that.
Yeah, same here. The only one I can think about, like after you kill a bunch of people and you go into the next door, maybe he's like running into the next door to break it open.
But and again, and those are smaller things, and I believe for the most part, most people like S hit the fan at some point when you were playing. But that's actually a pretty clever comment in that sense. I would say though too, the whole multiple paths. That's just something games you just do that.
I prefer
unless you want to be either completely linear and then the developers 100% control what you're seeing, or open world. Those are the two extremes. And it's been proven, other than maybe a game like The Witcher 3, if you have an open world game, it's hard to narrate properly because, I mean, I even say maybe even like the first Red Dead had a pretty good story too. But you can't control. There could be a 1 month gap in real life between when someone experiences this set piece to then they decide to just go screw around for like a couple weeks on end and then head to the next set piece. And so sometimes you lose some of that emotion. So that's why I think the happy medium is what this game did.
Yeah, little smaller sandboxes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. That's a great point. So no, I think overall though that was a fantastic. That to me, the way he said that, or she, was a 7 of 10. And I disagree with that. I think it's a better game, but the
one thing I don't understand, his very first line, or he or she, is this game. If you're coming into this game expecting to be blown away by a complete game, you're going to be disappointed. That's the one thing I definitely don't agree with. This is definitely a complete game. So I don't know what he is meaning by that. Yeah, tried and true elements. Sure. I think
it perfected a lot of.
I think that's what it did. It took everything that games have been doing and just honed them in so well. Like the animation's great. What you can do in battle is great. How enemies react to what's around you, that fighting stuff. But the problem is that it's about as interactive as a painting. That's just not true at all either.
Yeah, see,
I like
this individual is using like the term painting, and obviously I use it from an artistic standpoint. They're saying basically you're shown a lot, but you can't interact with a lot of it.
And of course, if this was a TV show, it'd definitely be worthy of a higher score. That one just makes me just.
I don't 100% disagree with that comment.
Here's my thing. Yes, I could watch this entire thing like cutscenes because people have done that on YouTube where they compile all the cutscenes, all the gameplay. But here, my thing is, when you're actually doing the killing in the game, it gives you more weight to the story.
Well, so how I would take that, though, would be, look at it from like I mean, it's a bad comparison because they're not even on the same level, but like The Walking Dead, that TV show.
Okay.
The gameplay elements, you're still witnessing, it's just you're not in control. Now, again, being a video game enthusiast, I love that I'm able to go through those moments. But like if you turn this into a TV show, you're getting all the high-end emotional drama that happens in the game, but you're still seeing like, the stealth scenes. It's you're witnessing. Yeah. So
I guess I content that it'd definitely be worthy of a higher score just because it is a TV show.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that. I think the only facet that makes sense there with that one is a lot of people say that if you had the choice of what was the stronger part of the game, was it the story or was it the gameplay? I actually think they intertwined and worked really well together.
Yeah, but I would say
storyline is better.
Because that's what you think about.
So if you remove the weak aspect.
When I think about this game, I also think about some of the battle scenes. So it's a very... I'm definitely pulled more towards characters and story, but...
Minus the David boss battle. That was ridiculous.
I love that scene.
Yeah, I thought that was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
That's one... Review-wise, I love that battle scene. I think that's one of the best boss battle fights.
See, to me, that was the first time when I was playing the game, I was like, okay, this is a video game boss battle.
It's definitely a video game boss battle. Don't get me wrong on that part.
Yeah, I liked everything about that. The build up to it, and then the after effect. There's something about. I mean, obviously, the set piece was really cool. There's something about I don't know.
I agree. I mean, I can see it's very, very video game, but I love how scary it can be. Like he just pops out and just.
He's creepy. I'll give him that.
Nolan North, man.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know it was him until I beat the game. I was like, Nolan North. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Does such a good job with his voice.
All right. Lifeless robots or lobotomy and sterilization?
Oh, lobotomy and sterilization. I mean, they sound both intriguing, but start with that. Lobotomy.
Anyone rating this under a 90, 2 words can characterize them. Lobotomy and sterilization. This game has all the elements of survival. If you are an act first and think later kind of gamer, then this game might not be for you. Patience and strategy and careful planning filled with mature content make this game, in all capital letters, great.
Where was that from? Do you know?
You know the internet.
Thanks, Larry.
I believe I jumped back and forth between there was PlayStation forums, YouTube, and Metacritic.
All right. So next month we're going to work on you putting where they're from. I just like to know where they're from.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
there's a couple of them I say like, okay, it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's fine.
4 years ago.
I just like to, I like to know when and where it's coming because that sometimes brings in a bias. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Okay.
I'm writing it down right now. Crap, I just messed up a comment.
You're so lame. So it's interesting. His first part, if you got rid of that, it would seem like a normal review. So I don't know why he decided to jump in the.
That's very. This is a very mean thing to say.
Yeah, right. I think this game, if you think it's an 8 out of 10, that's totally fine in my book. Like I can see that. Great story.
To me,
decent gameplay. Right?
To me, this would be a game for me personally. For you to give it like a 4 or less, I actually genuinely don't understand.
Exactly, and they're out there.
Yeah,
I can see 7, maybe a 6, maybe.
I think the gameplay side of it, because there are people who just don't like, because this is obviously this falls under the category of like a horror-esque type game.
Yeah, that's true.
And there are genuinely people who just don't like that. They stay away from it.
And you also have to realize this is a very ultra-violent game, so that's also another barrier you have to cross.
Foreshadowing.
Sure. Going off that, because he's talking about planning out your combat, basically, is what he's talking about. I just want to jump in with this comment. Stealth, blown, throw everything. So this is from Giant Bomb 6 months ago.
You're not even giving me an option to...
Yeah, I'm just going in. Sorry. So this, because it ties in. That's what I'm trying to do. So this is a response to a post that says he feels like he's playing it wrong. Like he likes a story but doesn't like the encounters. So he doesn't like the stealth parts, doesn't know where to go, and feels like he's beelining for an exit. So this is the response to that. So from Frodo Baggins, good name. I played it on hard both times. One of the greatest gameplay experiences I've had. The best part is when stealth is blown and you have to scrap and scrape for your life, throwing every resource at the encounter just to get through. And that's one of my favorite parts. So I agree with him that if you plan out, or if you don't have patience for this game, yeah, you're going to play differently, but I don't think you'd play it wrong. It's just, obviously the game is telling you should probably go stealth. But my favorite parts in this game, like I said, after I'm like the fourth body I kill and I get seen, all right, let's fight it out. And one of my favorite spots is there's like this big complex of, I think it's a bookstore or something like that. And there's gateways going in, and you have to, and there's maybe, I don't know, like 19 guys. So I usually, after the fourth or third guy, I'm like, all right, here we go. And I'm just going to just stab everybody and throw my Molotov cocktails. And I love that action.
Well, that is a good point you even bring that up, because I noticed there's something I get in. I was very, let me rewind there. I'm very big on my resources.
Mm-hmm.
So there were so many times where I would get into that exact scenario where I'd sneak up and I was able to kill somebody in some fantastical way, using your word. I would then try and do that with like every enemy and be like, and then I would run out of resources. So I'd have to go back and I'd reload it up and be like, okay, I need to kill everyone differently so I never use too much of one resource. And I was constantly thinking about that.
Which is cool. I love that.
So some people would consider that tedious. I thought it was clever.
Yeah. Any resource management can be tedious, but this game doesn't give you that many resources to manage, so it's fine.
I apologize about my talking too. My coffee's starting to kick in, so I'm getting a little more hyper.
That's fine.
Give me one. My turn, right? Zambies or lifeless robots? There's a PewDiePie reference. I don't know.
Yeah, apparently. We'll do lifeless bodies.
All right. I ended up playing Last of Us after all of the hype said it was an amazing game. When I started to play TLoU. Man, I said TLoU. Taylor Swift. I was my daughter's listening to her constantly now. I can't.
Awesome.
I was highly disappointed. All the review sites went on about the emotion and how that made the game. I felt no emotion from boring, lifeless, robotic characters. I can't even read that one seriously.
Lifeless, robotic characters.
You felt no emotion.
I mean, like I said, you're entitled to your opinion, but the animation's probably one. Naughty Dog's like known for the animation. Inside, Play Dead's another one, totally different because these are lifelike characters.
I mean, there are kids that are killed. Parents have to witness, and not just the intro scene. Like later in the game too, there's.
I just don't. I can't. Like, honestly, I'm picturing the game in my head. And I just don't. How you could see if you see that as robotic, you need to go play some other games.
You need help. Like, you need to talk out some of your like issues because no emotion. Like, really, I am not a crazy emotional dude. I'm getting starting to though. Like there's stupid videos nowadays. Like we've joked about this. Like those do not cry videos on YouTube. They're starting to get to me, and I never thought they would. So I'm an open book now,
which is fine. So do you want to do dreading each encounter or sympathetic and exploits?
Kind of just because you swiped all the way up, I want to make you swipe back. No, maybe I'll do that. No, maybe I'll.
Just pick one.
The exploit one.
Now I gotta swipe back down.
That's why I did that.
All right. So this is from GameSpot Review 8 out of 10 by Tom McShay, 2013, obviously when the game came out. So this is one of the critics that influenced the
Tom
critic.
Or Todd?
Tom.
Oh, it's Todd. He's a college sports announcer. Todd McShay.
This is Tom McShay. And so this score does influence the Metacritic. So
brother.
I'm taking... if you've never been on GameSpot, at the very bottom, they do a good and the bad. So I'm going to highlight the bad, because I thought that was interesting. So the bad. Supporting characters are rarely sympathetic. Combat contains too many immersion-breaking exploits.
Immersion breaking exploit in combat.
Guessing. So I didn't actually read the review. I went down to the bottom, like a lot of people do. I wanted to
You just
do
skipped it.
Yeah.
You don't got time for that.
Yeah. But other ones I do read the reviews, so it's okay. The AI run around you. You're trying to do stealth. That's the only thing. That's the only immersion breaking thing I can think of on this game.
Your Ellie just kind of is like, okay, why aren't you guys seeing right now?
Yeah, exactly.
So what was the first part of that?
Supporting characters are rarely sympathetic.
To me, that's ridiculous. I thought a lot of the supporting characters were fantastic. It was Henry and Sam. That dynamic was unbelievable.
Is he talking about probably because they left Joel and Ellie? You remember when they're climbing up the crate?
There's
reason.
I 100% sided what was happening there. I totally get it. You're protecting your kid. Like that's it. I get it. It's a tough decision, but Joel still at that point is a stranger.
Exactly. They just met.
David is just a really fleshed out, strange, but really relatable character, I thought. No, it's not David. Sorry. Okay. He's a terrible character.
Are you talking about Bill?
Bill.
Actually, no. I'm going to fight. David actually is a good character in some respect.
I got a preserving memory segment for you.
All right, so we'll talk about that one. Teaser again, preserving memories, third Sunday of the month. All right, just because I said the bad, I do want to read off the good. I think that's fair. Ellie is immediately likable and exhibits poignant growth. Agreed. Tense combat encounters with plenty of flexibility. Agreed. Crafting system demands environmental investigation. Yes. Slow-paced, rewarding, competitive multiplayer. Heck yes, we haven't even talked about the multiplayer. I don't even think you ever played it.
Nope.
It is, it was by none one of my favorite multiplayers ever. I'm sure they'll show up in a memory, don't worry. Excellent sound design and moving score.
I'm glad you reacted to your own opinion.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do you have anything to say about that?
I actually, I won't lie. This shows you how much I've paid attention to it. I completely forgot there was a multiplayer.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Like, all the research I've done, I forgot to even... I mean, I kind of remember because I watched you play it a little bit way back in the day. Yeah.
That's fine.
I don't remember. Did I have another memory for you?
The multiplayer is like the whipped cream and cherry to a dessert.
Okay.
As long as the dessert is spongy and tasty first.
Okay. Sponge cake.
No, I don't like
Sponge cake, not sponge cake.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if I...
Is it? Okay.
Pound cake.
I think the only two that I haven't said, so you can just choose, is GTA ain't got nothing on this.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay. Hands down, my favorite game of all time. Beats GTA 5 like nothing. I love GTA 5. Don't get me wrong, but this game is so much better. Why are you comparing those two games?
I don't know. People. I'm guessing because GTA 5 is a gangbuster and sells millions and millions of copies.
This comment came out 4 years. So this game came out, or a comment came out at the time 4 years ago. I mean, it says only like a year after.
Maybe everybody who was
came out.
talking about was into GTA 5 and he was into Last of Us. I don't know.
I mean, a good percentage of the user base of players on Earth have probably played GTA based on those sales totals.
That's crazy. All right, so I'm going to go with dreading each encounter. And this was the same guy who did the review for Inside. So it's Tom Chick, 2:3. And I'm just going to read basically the opening paragraph. This was from June 12th, 2013. So it's right when the game came out. And this is a critic review. So this also affects Metacritic's critic score. He gave it 3 out of 5 stars or 60 out of 100. So obviously, right away, I don't agree with him. But it's okay. If you accept that the pedestrian stealth/shooter gameplay in The Last of Us is the least important part of the experience, despite the long hours struggling and re-struggling with it, you might conclude that this is a remarkable game. But if you come to dread every encounter for dragging out the time it takes to get to the good parts, if you divvy up the time spent on the good parts and the time spent on the parts where you could have been playing a better game, what happens when you get a roughly 10-to-1 ratio? Is it a remarkable story buried under hours of non-remarkable game actually a good game?
And again, this is why I'm always more fascinated, especially when I disagree with an opinion. I'm always more fascinated to hear these types of comments than just the aimless, like, this is the greatest game ever. Okay, I get it. You like it. We all like it. These comments to me are worth more. And I like there's good reasoning in what he's saying there. It's if you're someone who did not like the gameplay, was going through the monotony of trying to get through some of the difficult positions in that game that they presented with you. Is it worth trudging through that to get to the next payoff? There's something to be said about that.
Agreed.
And again, I thought the gameplay itself, the survival, like whenever you have a game where you're able to collect something, I love being able to like go out of my way to collect stuff, and then when I get to the next fight, using the resources that I was able to collect and kind of just use it to beat down the enemies next to me. So for me, I've never had an issue. I thought the gameplay was good. I didn't really have any complaints about it. It's by no means is it the most fluid, but it's not meant to be. It's
supposed to be the weighted word.
You're an older guy now who's been beat down by this world that's been living there for over 2 decades in this just almost crap world that we're living in. I think there's just realism to the way that it's a very monotonous style of gameplay, and I think that actually adds to what you're going through. You're not some limber young man. And there's a difference. You can see the difference in gameplay. Like when you get to be Ellie for a while, she is a little more fluid.
Yeah,
but she's also a young girl.
It's okay to disagree, right? Struggling, restruggling. Pedestrian stealth shooter. That's the one thing I don't agree with. Why does he use the word pedestrian? You're putting on, because it's not good, it's pedestrian, so it's like a low level. So you're saying common, casual people, I'm guessing?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, like, I would be willing to actually give that opinion to someone, because if you kind of throw this up, if you're going to classify this as a shooter and talk about the shooter aspects of it, it's by no means compared to like the smoothness of some other shooters. It's not necessarily like high end there. So he's framing it in the wrong spot. I would never classify it.
This is a third person action game, right? Yeah. Or is it even action?
There's action sets, pieces.
Yeah, I think that's how I would classify it. I don't actually know what it's classified as. There is stealth elements, but most games have
a lot of stealth elements. Yeah, but I mean, technically, you can actually subdue and kind of just go balls to the wall crazy.
But it's interesting. Because I've been on Quarter 3 and I looked at all this guy's reviews, and I basically disagree with every single one of his reviews. I mean, he gave...
So he's the type of guy you want to go out and have a drink with, though, because you're going to have good conversations.
Yes. I'm going to call him out a little bit. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, my game of the year last year. That's fine.
Terrible.
Shut up. He gave it 4 out of 5 stars, which is cool. But in his review, he said, having red hair as a woman is a trope. And
I hate that. Right away. I hate that.
I'm just sorry. Just because she has red hair does not mean she's a trope. Whatever. I don't really care, but... I disagree with you, Time Chick, on both accounts.
Yeah,
but I like that people have different opinions to me because it makes them exciting.
I think we can go to facts now, right?
All right, sounds great.
I just scared myself because I forgot. I was like, I don't have any facts, but I forgot.
Because you do it before. All right, so the last segment of this...
Dracula voice?
I don't know what that was. It is Halloween one-ish when we're recording this.
Sure.
And here in the States.
Facts.
So this segment, we just rattle off facts, and we sometimes talk about them. 29.3% of PS3 owners who started The Last of Us on normal difficulty finished the game. Shows you how many people didn't finish it.
That always fascinates me. I'm not as into trophies as you are. I've gotten more into it. I like going into the statistics behind the trophies. It is amazing how many people, like, you'll see 84% of people will get the first trophy of a game, which that even fascinates me. Like, you bought the game and you don't even play it long enough to get the first trophy. Like, it's like, just get through the intro sequence or something. But then just seeing the drop off of like how many people don't even make it to like the midway part of the game. And that's so fascinating.
So just to give you more stats, because I like stats, on easy difficulty, 41.8% of people finished it. Hard, 6.7. Survivor, 2.7. Comparison to the PS4 numbers, easy was 42%, so just a smidge higher. Normal, 31.1%, that's 2% higher than the 29. Hard, 7.1. Survivor, same, 2.7. There was Grounded, I forgot to grab that.
That probably makes sense, though, that the numbers would go up, because you probably had some people who had beat it on the PS3, rebought it for the PS4.
Yeah.
And so they just wanted to play it on a higher difficulty.
You know, I'm one of that 2.7% on PS3, just so you know. Survivor difficulty.
Nice.
But making this interesting, June 14th, 2018, Naughty Dog tweeted out that over 17 million copies of TLoU have been sold. Combined sales of PS3 and PS4. And just under 10 million of those sales were sold through the first year. So you have 17 million people that have played this game. At most, not even half of the people have finished it.
That's also interesting, though, too, the way you worded that. That would mean at minimum 10 million of those copies are on the PS3, 7 million are on the PS4 at max, probably less than, I mean, granted, whenever that stat was, it could be more now. But there's probably like 6 million, 5 million copies total on the PS4.
That's great.
Yeah, that's pretty for a redux.
This is a new IP on the PS3 at the late end cycle. And now PS4, whatever. But 17 million copies for a new IP. That's
an unbelievable
I mean,
number.
Persona 5 is like 2 million. They're like, yeah. And that's and then that's the fifth in the series.
That's crazy. All right. In the winter chapter, when fighting off infected with David, if the player enables photo mode and sets hide characters to hide enemies, David will disappear. Similarly, I can't say that word, if one enables hide buddies, David will remain visible.
Weird.
That's kind of a clever little... and it's obviously for the code in the game, but like from the very beginning, if you ever do that, that's like a subtle hint, like this guy's not... Which I right away was like, this guy's off.
There's something off about this guy. One of the secret interactions players can have with Bill happens when you find the hanging body of his implied partner, Frank. The player can pick up his suicide note, Frank's suicide note, where Frank mentions that he hated Bill's guts. This note can be handed over to Bill, who will read the note for a while before crumpling it up and throwing it away.
I did that.
I never saw that, so I was like,
I thought I thought the crumpling it up was a really, because he didn't even read. You could tell the way they implied it is he didn't read the whole thing.
And just start and just
I thought that was very well
cool.
done. And it's I love when games have like a really touching moment like that you can completely miss.
There are so many you can miss in this game. It's insane.
Speaking of which, it is possible to reach Tess's body once she has been killed by the soldiers. After the cutscene leading to Tess's death finishes, the soldiers will then attempt to break through the doors leading upstairs. Once the doors are successfully opened, fighting your way back downstairs will result in a sad theme playing when standing beside her body.
So cool. I never even thought to do that.
Mm-hmm. So I know. I was just like, get out of here.
I'm running. Joel and Ellie have a surname in the Japanese manuals. Joel Miller and Ellie Williams. Apparently not canon, I think, according to like the art book and stuff, but somehow still in the Japanese manuals.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah. I wonder...
Super weird.
I don't
get it. I don't get it.
In the demo from God of War Ascension, a firefly pendant can be found hanging from a tree.
Ah, I love that crossover.
No idea why.
Yeah. Good job, guys. That cross fun. There was a concept for an infected elephant.
I remember. I read this one.
Found by concept art on Naughty Dog, so inside their art book. It kind of looks like The Thing and a giant plant with tendrils like bloody vines. Really gross. I'll probably tweet out this picture.
I like that, yeah. I saw that one. It's creepy.
Yeah.
In the 2016 game Firewatch, a sweater can be found in one of the many accessible caches throughout the game, located near Jonesy Lake, maybe? This sweater, labeled with the University of Eastern Colorado, is a reference to the University of Eastern Colorado in The Last of Us. Upon interacting with the sweater, dialogue between Henry and Delilah will be activated, where they mention how they question the existence of a university under the same name even existing. And that college is a made-up college in the Last of Us universe. The actual name for the college there is like a little bit different.
Oh, interesting. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they name it that, and they actually use that sweater in the game.
I was like, how do they know it's the Last of Us reference?
Yeah.
If it's made up, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't double check my facts like that. Very cool. So that was our facts. And that. You have another one? Why do I only have?
You only did 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, I only did 4. For some reason, I only did 4.
All right. Well, last one then. Cross-reference between Naughty Dog games. The bar that Nathan Drake finds the fungus-themed article in at the beginning of Uncharted 3 appears in almost the exact same form during The Last of Us. It's called O'Sullivan's Irish Pub. The name being a reference to Drake's close friend Victor Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully.
I like that. You know what's really funny about that story? That newspaper article that's in the bar showing Last of Us, they forgot that was in there. And they thought it was going to get spoiled, but nobody realized it.
That's awesome.
We're doing, getting a little too cute, and then they're like, whoa. Like, thankfully nobody saw this.
That's fantastic.
But I think it's once they showed either gameplay footage or a trailer or something like that, then people kind of connected the dots like, whoops.
That's cool.
So that was the finish of our facts segment, and that finishes this review episode, this very long review episode, which I love because Last of Us deserves the love. If you have not played this game, you should not be listening to this. first of all.
We got to give you a spoiler tag at the very end of the episode.
But TLoU review, it's going to be a spoiler. It's fine. This came out quite a few years ago.
2013.
But the best thing you can do, now that you've listened to this long episode, is rate us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to do. But most of all, share it with a friend that has played Last of Us, because I'm sure they have some opinions that they either agree with ours or disagree with people that we found on the internet.
At the end of the day, metrics are obviously huge. It's why podcasts always tell you go review. But just the idea of just sharing with a friend, I like that.
Yeah, and thank you to those new subscribers last month. That was awesome. You were great. And you're wondering why I'm shouting you out this month? Because we're always a month behind. That's okay. So coming up, you have a couple of little fun, shorter episodes. And then you have the big, long one at the end of the third Sunday of the month. Have a wonderful day. Month.
You too.
Year. You're welcome, Larry. Goodbye.